Hello there, my name is WangleLine and today I will be showing you how I made those nice glitchy and mechanical sounds using a couple of easy tricks. A while ago I was practicing my sound design skills by experimenting a lot with plugins and weird effects. And over time I kind of came up with a new technique to make those sounds you just heard. The results are always new, different and interesting, so it's really flexible for many kinds of sounds. So let's get into it. Okay, first off, I'll start by putting any sample or song into my DAW. And then I'll just cut it up so I have a nice and energetic part with a lot of frequencies going on there. Then I'll just add the sample to a mixer channel, and it sounds like this. Now it's important to add a really small and subtle amount of reverb, so we have a small and quiet tail after the sample stops playing, somewhat like this. And now comes the loud part, which is saturating, compressing and distorting the shit out of the sample. I'll just make it as harsh as possible, so we turn it down to -30 dB and put the ratio all the way up and compensate for the gain. Now it sounds like this. It sounds very weird and crunchy, but that's not what I'm going for. I'm trying to make that tail of reverb as compressed and distorted as possible. Let's add some Camel Crusher and compress and distort even more out of this. You can hear some nice glitches and artifacts in the reverb tail by now, and I'm going to push this even further, so we have a nice and messed up reverb tail at the end. I'll just quickly record the sample, so we can mutate the sample and work with it even more. It's not even important to play the full sample, we can stop it at any moment, like this. We can even pitch shift the original sample to get more variation in tone, you know. Okay, I think that's it, we can just export the sample. So this is the recording I've just saved, and I'm going to split up most of it. Okay, first off I'll make the sample unique, so we can transform and mutate it without affecting the others. If I now pitch shift the sample, you can see that the others are unaffected. If I now plug the sample into the same mixer channel we just used to compress and distort the shit out of the previous samples, you can see that we can make even more interesting, nice glitchy sounds with this method. I tend to cut up the samples because you can really see a pattern in those sounds. First there's a really thick bit of distorted frequencies, then there's weird glitching and clipping, and then there's this tail or fade off. So if I make the first thick part unique and give it a little fade off, now the body part looks and sounds like this. And now we can make even more interesting things with this. I'll start by adding a bunch of reverb, so it's nice and ambient. Hey, that's quite nice. I'll save that. Okay, on to the next sample. Because there are only frequencies in the low range, it sounds very rumbly and bassy. I'll just try pitching this one up and see what it sounds like. This is nice, but it's still way too rumbly in the low frequencies. So I'll just EQ it a little bit and cut off the low ones, the low boys, you know. Yeah, this sounds quite nice, I'll just save it like it is right now. Okay, and this is the tail part of our long sample. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, but what about playing the sample in reverse? Yeah, that's also nice, but we can add more effects and distortion. Now I just added fruity flangers on top of this, and I'm going to automate some of the settings to make it even more dynamic and moving. And some reverb, even more reverb, because there's never enough reverb in a sample. And on top of that, some saturation for more thickness and power. Now it sounds like this. Yeah, I like that. That's nice. Now I put this little sample in the same mixer channel as the sample before, and I'll just try to play it in weird and interesting ways. And I'll then save the samples. Alright, I think if I cut this section of those samples, which sounds like this, I can make a really nice ambient sound out of this, you know, a really long stretched one. I'll just use my trusty tool called Edison to chop those up and stretch them beyond comprehension. Now I will just try to time shift this sample by a lot. Okay, this is interesting. Let's listen to it. Yeah, that's deep and atmospheric, but can we go further? Okay, it's very soft and low, so this time I'll try not to time shift it, but rather pitch shift it up a couple of steps. Yeah, this is nice. And now I'll try to do something interesting with this sample. I'll just start off by putting a fruity limiter on the channel, and instead of compressing the sound, I will now gate it, so if the sound volume is below a certain threshold, it won't play. It should sound somewhat like this. And once that's done, we can compress it even further. And now I will just crush the bitrate of the sample using Crush. You should really try using this plugin, it's great and it's free, so go ahead. And now I'll just add even more compression onto it. So the sound is once again really destroyed and kind of unusable by this point. But that's exactly what we want. We want a nice glitchy sound which is kind of noise, you know? It's experimental sound design. We're not trying to make music, but instead we're making sound effects, you know? Hey, that's quite nice. It's way nicer than I expected, so let's save that one as well. I think I'm done now. In this video I've collected about 7 nice, interesting and completely different glitch samples, and here they are. Have fun! As you may have seen, the results are very different and interesting in many kinds of ways. And now let's listen to the first sound we've made. As you can see, by fading in the raw input sound and adding a bunch of reverb in the process, you can make a bunch of ambient and soft metallic sounds. And now onto the second sound. It sounds like turning off a TV, you know? It's important to EQ your samples. So before processing the sample even further, you need to EQ your stuff. Equalize your frequencies, and always keep in mind that some plugins later on might distort frequencies you haven't filtered out yet. So I did cut off a lot of the low frequencies because it was very rumbly and low and it was just kind of useless, you know? Onto the third sound. This sound also has a slow fading speed, but in this case the sound isn't completely drowned in reverb, so a bunch of the harsh frequencies and the crispy sound is still in there. It shows how the compression artifacts can sound really nice and crispy and crunchy if you compress it in the right way. It really shows how crispy and crunchy those compression artifacts can sound if you process them in the correct way afterwards. So sound number 4 really takes advantage of a bunch of pitch and especially time shifting. So we got a nice ambient and soft sound for backgrounds like in Sventbar, for example. I always find it important to add movement through EQing to your sounds so they don't sound very boring and stale and the frequencies are all the same throughout the whole sound. So don't forget to EQ your stuff and add movement to your EQing. Alright. This sound didn't meet my expectations. It completely surpassed them. I didn't expect to find such a nice and clean, full sound with just a bunch of basic tools. I used a bunch of noise gating and limiting to just make the sound flicker in a way, so it turns on and off all the time. And to fill the anti-gaps, we used bit crushing and a bunch of other small things. And now it sounds like this, so it's nice and I love it. It's great. Once again, it shows how flexible this technique is and how many sounds you can create with it. Sometimes the sounds you get aren't those which you want, but it's still really nice, you know? You get really nice results you can use in other projects, as an example. So I find this last sound particularly interesting because it has a lot of movement in the final product, even though the raw sample we've used is just a really quickly repeating pattern. And I used the processing as a second layer of motion, in a way, to add more movement in the sound. So it sounds like an ambient whatever synth, you know? It's nice and you can use it for a bunch of things. Okay, this was the first episode of my new kind of series, Sound Design Sandbox, and I hope you've liked it, because I certainly did. All that experimenting and making new sounds and trying new things was really nice, and I'm happy that I could show you a couple of techniques I use in my daily sound design processes. So this is a part of my workflow when I make glitchy, mechanical, weird sounds, so I hope you've learned something from this. By the way, all the sounds I make in this series or on other videos like the kitchen music video are linked in the description, so you can download my sounds and play with them and do whatever you want. They are licensed under Creative Commons 0, so you don't even have to credit me, just leave a like on the video or something. I guess just have a nice day and see ya! Oh, fucking hell. Hello there, my name is WangleLine and today I will be Hello there, my name is WangleLine and today I will be showing you how I made those nice, easy... Fuck. Hello there, my name is WangleLine and today I will be showing you how I made those nice, easy... Hello there, I'm in a closet and the acoustics in here are very nice.